I want to get your feel on the Eagles team right now. Obviously, they're 2-0. We saw C is always the key, and
Yeah,
the
man.
Eagles were pretty consistent last year. Dylan, I want to get your vibe. I want to get your feel on the Eagles team right now. Obviously, they're 2-0. We saw the whole league yesterday, essentially. There's a couple things to keep in mind. I think a lot of people are still a little iffy about the offense and Jalen Hurts' form, Brian Johnson's play calling, and defense. There are some legitimate injuries here as well. How are you
Mhm.
feeling after week 2?
Yeah, I mean, you and I talked on here after the Patriots game
Right.
and kind of spoke on the fact that you're going to have to find a way to win these ugly games. There's
Yeah.
going to be, struggles and concerns and ugly parts of this schedule. And the fact that you can come out with a win in that column is huge. The concerns, they're real, I guess. But I can't pinpoint what's wrong with this offense right now. Some of it has to do with the play calling and Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni. Some of it has to do with Jalen Hurts. Like, dude, through 2 weeks, he's not seeing the field well at all. That pick he threw against Minnesota, I have no idea what he read, what he was looking at, man. That he stared that linebacker in his eyes before releasing that ball and ultimately gave it away around midfield. So the concerns are definitely real, but you just have to have the confidence that this team is fine, right? Like, they finally put their foot in the ground on Thursday night against Minnesota and did the one thing they've done well through all the ups and downs over the last 2 years, and that's pound the rock. And somehow DeAndre Swift, it took a Kenneth Gainwell injury to get DeAndre Swift the ball, and he's third in the NFL in rushing yards through 2 weeks now, all because of that Thursday night performance. So yeah, the vibe is, it's weird. It's not what we expected. I guess we kind of expected this team to come out the gates high flying, ready to go, and it hasn't looked like that. But the fact that they're still 2-0 to start this year, no matter how sluggish, is the most important thing.
I think that's like more like of a sign of just their character on this team. Like, these guys are winners. I know they haven't really won that big trophy just yet. Well, most of you guys haven't won that big trophy,
Yeah.
but you could still see the character because you play against two scrappy type of teams, and obviously Minnesota was hungry as well, and New England was a scrappy bunch. They still found a way to get that job done. And it's so funny, dude. Like, every single time we got this back, that it's just like noticeable that you should give them some more carries. I'm looking at like the Eric Blunts in the past. I'm looking at what am I Jordan Howard in the past as well,
Mhm.
and like DeAndre Swift. Like, you got to give him the ball. Like, he's that dangerous, especially in open space. He can break some big runs, but you put anyone. I think you
That's
put
a concerning part as well, man, because it's like it goes back to what they were trying to push in training camp. And yeah, we as fans don't get to see the day-to-day,
right.
every practice and the work they put in. And you would think that these football minds know, right? Like, they're seeing something with Kenneth Gainwell that we don't see, and whatever. And then you watch what transpired on Thursday night, and it's like, no, it's DeAndre Swift, if healthy, if on the field, I'm not over exaggerating, a top 10, top 12 running back in this league when healthy. He's that explosive. He's that big of a playmaker, both with his hands and out of the backfield. And you saw that on display Thursday night. Like, I just don't get what they were trying to push, the narrative coming out of training camp that Kenny G's our guy. He's the lead back. He gets 14 carries against the Patriots. Swift gets one reception, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I don't get how the minds in that building put that on display and thought that was the right direction to go.
Yeah, no, I mean, I going forward, I think it does need to be somewhat of a running back by committee, and maybe my mind has changed about how many snaps each person gets because, like, I mean, granted, it was one game by Penny, but it really didn't see much from him for me to
Right.
think that he should be getting more carries. But we talked about before, like, there's so many weapons on this offense that even if it's on the ground game or even it's through the air, there's going to be someone that's going to be highlighted. This week DeAndre Swift just went off, and there was no way you're not going to give him that ball. But it's going to be different every single week. So
I agree. There's definitely a spot for Kenneth Gainwell out of this backfield. There's still a spot for Rashad Penny from the time to time. But to watch what happened on Thursday night, it should be no different. It should
right.
be DeAndre Swift's ball, and the other guys get mixed in to spell him throughout the course of a game. He is RB1. That should be solidified after Thursday night. And if it's not, and I get Kenneth Gainwell for 16 carries on Monday night, and he has 16 carries for 42 yards, and DeAndre Swift's touched the ball 4 times, I might lose my mind. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. A couple quick things here.
Yeah.
Some news and notes here today. Avonte Maddox, torn pec, more than likely done
Yeah.
for the season. Again, injuries traveling with this guy. You really feel for the dude. Again, getting hurt here. The Eagles did sign a punter, Braden Mann. That does mean Sipas's time may have come to an end. They
Yeah,
did release him. So Brandon Mann, it's his job to lose now. And then, of course, Buda Baker was inactive yesterday.
Yeah.
And of course, that sign got pushed out here in Philly hard.
Yeah.
It does seem like the deal between, from what I saw earlier, deal between the Eagles and the Cardinals is off the table. But I mean, Howie being Howie, you can't consider that being out of the picture here, man. But I guess let's start with that secondary because I'm a little bit concerned a little bit, and Evans did. I thought he had a solid bounce back game considering what he did against the Patriots. What's his name? Goodrich. I don't feel comfortable
Mario
there.
Goodrich, no.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable him at the slot. So
No,
obviously, injuries hurting his team a little bit, but kind of you're just on Maddox and maybe Buda Baker possibility.
Yeah, I mean the Buda thing is obviously I don't want to call it a pipe dream because it's not necessarily out of the realm of possibility when, like you said, when it comes to Howie Roseman getting things done. But it does just seem like there's a lot more noise and a lot more smoke from the Philadelphia side of things, the intrigue from the fans and a need right for the Eagles secondary compared to what's being put out there on the Arizona side of things. Especially when you have that maybe fractured relationship with Arizona's head coach and Jonathan Gannon. However, they truly departed. You've heard all different kinds of stories about from Gannon's point of view and the Eagles' point of view. So who knows if a deal would even be able to get done there, what the asking price would be for Buda Baker. But the fact that, dude, the Cardinals are openly tanking. Like literally openly tanking, man. And I know they gave the Giants quite the scare in the first half yesterday, but losing that game just tells you everything you need to know. They're going after Caleb Williams in next year's draft. So I don't know why Buda Baker wouldn't want to, I know that he had his issues in the offseason and wanted to get out, but then he signs whatever the case is. It's almost a pipe dream for me. Mario Goodrich, I am not comfortable with in the slot at all. And it brings up a couple concerns, right? Well, James Bradbury, obviously, hopefully clears concussion protocol shortly. He should be able to go Monday night across from Darius Slay. Your outside's fine, but then what happens in the slot? Because that's where Avonte Maddox was so desperately needed. And yeah, it's simple to just look down the depth chart and go, oh, well, you have guys like Josh Jobe and Eli Ricks and Kelly Ringo. Well, if they're not slot corners, if they're not comfortable playing the slot the way that Mario Goodrich might be to this team, he's going to get the nod at the nickel. And that worries the hell out of me moving forward, man, because he got picked on Thursday night when he was out on the field.
Yeah, man. We're going to have to see what happens here, man, but I definitely does not make you feel good whatsoever. No. Buda Baker, yeah, he's the Chad Ochocinco type. I always bring up the story because I remember when Chad Ochocinco was playing, man. That was the one player, dude, I begged so hard for the Eagles to go get as a kid, but it never happened. So I always compare it to that. But yes, Jason, no hat. My maroon Phillies hat that I was planning to wear today is missing. And I've been literally stripping my house down trying to find this hat because Jason knows my hats, those are my babies. Me bebes, for sure, man. Is Baker that good of a QB for the Bucs? I think he's fine. I think they're playing well as a team.
Yeah. Yeah, somehow. I mean, I don't know. The Minnesota win was shocking week 1, obviously.
We don't even know who the Bears are right now either.
Yeah, the Bears are a train wreck. Justin Fields has been sacked 9 times with 4+ seconds having transpired. So he holds the ball way too long. That offense is a mess. Coaching staff's a mess, but it's a good win. It's a good start for Tampa Bay. Mike Evans still disgruntled, but still putting up big numbers. But no, I don't think you'll see that Baker Mayfield on Monday night against the Eagles.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure, man. Let's move real quick to the Phils. Before we get into the action of the weekend, I just wanted to say, hearing the news late last night about Charlie Manuel was huge. If you guys didn't know, he did suffer a stroke. Seemed to be pretty serious. He was in critical condition, but it does seem like he will be okay. So keep knocking on wood. Keep him in his prayers, man. Dude, that's not one news that we wanted to wake up here today. So thank God. But we'll definitely be keeping Charlie Manuel and his family in our prayers here. But 2-3 against St. Louis. They did lose yesterday. Bullpen was a little bit of a concern here, man. So let's start off with that bullpen because it's just I'm having a little bit of a dilemma myself here because guys like Hoffman, guys like Covey look good right now. But playoff time, a guy like Seranthony Dominguez, a guy like Jose Alvarado, a guy like Gregory Soto, I feel like their potential is lights out complete. I don't really know what I'm going to get from Hoffman or Covey in the playoffs, man. Dude, like this bullpen, this team in general like feels like a wait and see type of situation. But like with this bullpen, what do we do in these critical innings, bro?
Yeah, it's a concern, right? It's a worry right now, especially that they certainly have a Sir Anthony Dominguez issue at the moment. And now whether he can figure that out over the next 2 to 3 weeks or not, is TBD. But Sir Anthony Dominguez, it feels like every time he comes into a ball game where the Phillies just took a 1-run lead and they came from behind, or they tied the game up the previous inning and it's the 7th or the 8th, it feels like Sir Anthony is giving up at least a run or two in that inning, and the Phillies lose, a la yesterday afternoon. So that's a concern. I actually, for some reason, trust Jeff Hoffman. I don't trust Dylan Covey. Throw Dylan Covey out the window. Just crumple that idea up, put him to the side. He will not pitch in the postseason. I, for some reason, think I can trust Jeff Hoffman. I know we haven't seen it, but to be fair, man, we've only seen Sir Anthony Dominguez in one playoff run last year. We've seen Jose Alvarado in one playoff run last year. Yordan Alvarez writes itself. Gregory Soto came over from the Tigers. He's now, so these guys who, yes, the upside of them compared to a Jeff Hoffman seems higher, seems more lights out, but they don't have great long playoff run success in them, more so than the guys we haven't seen at all. So the bullpen is definitely something that you're going to have to keep an eye on. But it's why it's so important to have your starters get into the sixth, get through 6 innings, which again, you have an Aaron Nola issue. The list goes on and on, man. They got to hit their stride over the next week or two.
Even, yeah, the starters are concerned too, because I mean, Aaron Nola this year, like, I really haven't felt any inspiration from any one of his starts this year, man. Like, that's such a concern. And like, what do you, so like after Wheeler, right? Dude, Nola, Walker. I mean, Christopher Sanchez makes you feel a little bit better, but that's still like an unknown as a piece there. Ranger Suarez is like the only real consistent one, but like, dude, arms in general are a big question mark right now.
They're scary because it's weird, man. They're so deep. You make the trade for Lorenzen, you have the 6-man rotation right now, and at times it makes you feel great. At times, this starting rotation from the middle of July through August had like the second best starting ERA in the league. They have moments where this rotation is locked down. But then you get on runs where Taiwan can't get through the 5th. Nola blows a lead. Sanchez gives up whatever the case may be, or Lorenzen gives up 6 or 7. It hasn't put itself together yet. I shout out to Hunter Brody, man. I saw a clip of his this morning. And it's 100% a fact. This Aaron Nola thing, Parcero, he's not gonna work his way through it this year. I don't trust him one single inch come this postseason run. Like, I don't think this is a thing where you just got to keep letting them push through it and work through it. And hopefully, that 4-seamer, get some run on it come postseason time and he's good to go. I don't think he's fixing himself this year. I think it's so far up here because he knew he took a gamble on himself. He turned down Dave Dombrowski's offer. I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to have a career year. And he shot himself in the foot. And now he's sitting back like, uh-oh. And he might not get the payday he was expecting. So Zach Wheeler's your ace. I would throw Ranger Suarez second in this playoff rotation, man.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's really where you have to go because I mean, you're not trusting the other guys. It's just straight up.
All right, now, and I know everyone's Christopher Sanchez.
Yeah, what do you think about that as a playoff rotation?
I mean, maybe there's something there. But I would still take the risk on a guy like Taiwan. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm a clown. Maybe I should be bought into Christopher Sanchez. I'm not trusting Christopher Sanchez against the Braves come postseason time. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, man. It's definitely going to be a struggle, man. All the South America smiles at the end of the day. Ranger being number 2. That
Yeah,
is
man.
right, Jose. That is right, my man. Are you worried at all about the wild card race at all, man?
No,
Cubs.
I mean the
Good now.
Phillies have shot themselves in the foot time and time again. I believe they've lost 10 of their last 17 or 18 games, but meanwhile they still have a four game lead in the loss column over the Chicago Cubs right now because they just got swept by the Diamondbacks. I'm not worried about it. Now again, you get the Braves on the road for 3. If you somehow got swept here, things could turn pretty quickly. But the last thing that I find interesting about this Phillies club is everyone's kind of freaking out at the moment, and talking about how they're getting cold at the wrong time. Ladies and gentlemen, they were just as ice cold this time last year.
Literally,
It
man.
took them until the final series of the season to clinch the 3rd wild card spot. They were not playing good ball at this point in the year last year, and then they got hot in the postseason. So, yeah, you would like to see them start to heat up in the next week or so and really hit their stride come October. But it's also not the end of the world
Right.
if they struggle and then still get the first wild card spot.
This is what I'm concerned about is because, like, dude, you know how hard it is for Lightning to strike twice?
Yeah, well, that's the issue.
I-
I mean, and you watch a team like the Braves, you watch a team like the Dodgers do what they've done all regular season.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like we do this with the Dodgers almost every year, right? They make
Right.
big splashes at the deadline. They have the lineup, they have the bullpen, and they win 100+ games, and they won a COVID World Series. Like in a short, that's all they have to show for it. So the Dodgers are, you can't put too much stock into them. The Braves are the team that scare you, and granted, you wiped the floor with them last year at Citizens Bank Park. That was great. It was awesome to see. I think that the Phillies showed, even though losing the series to Atlanta, that they had the bats to compete with them. But right now, it just feels like Atlanta has a little too much steam. We'll see what happens. Obviously, Acuna got hurt. I don't know. Was he
Right.
back in the lineup yesterday? I don't know what the deal is with him moving forward, but yeah, we'll see, man. All I would say is that the Phillies can play with anybody.
It
Will
kind
they
of
win? Will they get back to the World Series? I don't know, but they can compete with anybody in the National League.
it feels like the Phillies' toughest opponent is themselves, man. It really, really
It's
feels like that. Because
it's a fair point, man. I mean, look at how many comebacks and big time home runs they've hit in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and how many of those games they've lost.
if they play to their potential, Dylan, like I feel like they can take down any of those teams you just mentioned. But
Yeah,
it's because it's the Phillies. That's why.
we'll see.
Where's fun.
We'll
So
see,
real
man.
quick, this early week series against the Braves, right? You got 3 against them before the Mets this
Mhm.
weekend. Give us a little bit of a prediction. What do you think they do in this series? What are you trying to look for against the Braves too, man?
I'm looking for a little bit of momentum, a little bit of what I just said about like the hey, we belong. Like you don't
Right.
have to prove anything to the fans, man. You don't have to prove anything to the rest of the league, but prove it to yourself a little bit and get that momentum. Like you lost the series at home. Yeah, the Braves have already clinched the NL East, but they haven't rested anybody all year before Acuna got hurt. They're still going to put out their best lineup. The Phillies should have the edge in the pitching matchup. Obviously, tonight you have Wheeler versus Wright. And I believe the next 2 games the Braves have question marks on the bump. So just kind of a show yourself that you belong and you can compete with this team and go take 2 out of 3. Because A, like I said, prove it to yourself. And then B, you don't want to keep relying on the Chicago Cubs to lose 2 or 3 or 3 out of 3. You don't want to. The Marlins just swept the shit out of the Braves. You don't want the Marlins to sweep another series and you get swept and here they come 2 games out with 10 to play or whatever. So yeah, man, just continue to build that lead in the wild card and start to turn it in the right direction.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Dylan, man, appreciate you coming on as always, man.
Yes,
Please make
sir.
sure you guys follow Dylan D98. He's here on DSM Media as well. Dylan, we'll talk soon, brother. Appreciate
Enjoy
you,
it,
man.
brother. Appreciate it.
Dylan Davis checking on in.
Oh,
It's good, good to have Dylan in here, giving us the perspective of the Birds and the Phillies.